Welcome, and thanks for watching. We are Tim Lamm and Paula Harrison, also known as Steps in Time Historical Dance. This is the fourth video in our series demonstrating the steps and techniques of early Argentine tango. Our source is the book Method for Dancing El Tango Argentino de Salón by Nicanor Lima, published about 1916 in Argentina. In our previous videos, we covered chapters 1 to 11 of Lima's book. We assume you're familiar with that material, so if you haven't watched it, we encourage you to watch those videos now. In this video, we will cover some of the material in chapter 12, a long and rich chapter dealing with a category of tango figures called medias lunas, literally half moons. Lima defines 14 distinct types of medias lunas. We decided to cover about half of them in this video and save the others for the next video. Lima says that a media luna is a figure in which the same steps are repeated forward and backward, once on one side and then on the other. Additionally, he says it must take 2 to 4 measures of music. As we shall see, this is not a precise definition because medias lunas can go side to side as well as forward and back, and they don't always repeat on the opposite side. But Lima's initial description gives you the general idea. For example, media luna number 1 is the familiar tango box step. Lima describes it as 2 pasos de tango acompasados number 1, one forward and to the right, the other back and to the left, like this. The rhythm is slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick. Now we will postpone further examination of this media luna for our next video. In the present video, we will cover the 8 medias lunas that consist of slow steps only. Perhaps the simplest possible media luna is number 2, which in its basic form consists of 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward. Note that the second and fourth steps are only touches, not full weight-bearing steps. Thus, if I start forward with my left foot, I repeat the steps backward with the right foot. Of course, I don't have to start forward with my left foot. I could start forward with the right foot. Or I could start backward on the right foot. Or I could start backward on the left foot. Instead of using smooth walking steps, pasos, paseos, serenos, we could use dipping steps, pasos, paseos, acompasados. Or we could alternate the two, pasos, paseos, alternados. This gives 16 ways of doing the basic figure. But that's not all. Lima says that the figure may be done in any of the 3 body positions. We've been using waltz position. Here's the figure in Yale position and in promenade position. In waltz position and Yale position, the woman's steps are on the opposite foot and in the opposite direction from the man's. But in promenade position, the woman's steps are on the opposite foot and in the same direction as the man's. We could also do the figure in any of the 4 directions. You've seen forward and back, so here is the oblique version. And a lateral version. Generally speaking, in the lateral versions of medias lunas, the woman's steps are opposite the man's in the sense of reversing left and right, and not reversing forward and back. Thus, the basic idea of 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward gives rise to a multitude of possible variations. We count at least 112 different ways, but these are still not all. Lima says that since the figure occupies 3 measures of music, you can add 2 or 4 steps to it, making 3 or 4 measures of music. This brings the total number of possible variations of Media Luna number 2 to over 300. Another Media Luna having a touch step is number 14, the Catamarqueña. Lima describes it as 4 crossing steps and 4 walking steps, alternating and forming a square or diamond on the dance floor. This figure shows the following footwork. We will now show several variations of Medias Lunas 2 and 14. Keep in mind 2 important points about all our demonstrations with music. First, we do not attempt to show all the possible variations. Lima says that all Medias Lunas may be done on either side, in any of the 3 body positions, and in any of the 4 directions. We will always show the basic forward and back form of the figure in waltz position, the lateral form, and the figure in promenade position. We do not show variations in Yale position. If the figure can be done with more or fewer steps, we show that also. So keep in mind that any variation we do could be done on the other foot in the opposite direction with dipping steps instead of smooth steps, and so on. Second, the purpose of our demonstrations is to document our interpretation of the figures. They are contrived to pack a lot of variations into one piece of music and do not show how the figures would have been used in a social dance. In the dance sequence you just saw, we demonstrated 3 and 4 bar versions of Media Luna number 2. Unfortunately, Lima does not give an exact description of these variations or a diagram showing the footwork. Take a look at the 3 bar version again. Notice that I start forward on the left foot, and when I repeat the steps backward, I also start on the left foot. But in his general description of Medias Lunas, Lima says that they repeat on the opposite side. So perhaps we should take weight on the 3rd step and start the repetition on the right foot. We believe this is a possible interpretation, but we prefer the first way for several reasons. One, the simplest interpretation of Lima's instructions is just to add the extra step, not changing anything else. This also preserves the special character of the figure, having that touch step. Second, in chapter 3, Lima explains that when you are walking with slow steps and you wish to reverse course, you should begin walking in the other direction on the same foot with which you took the last step in the first direction. This implies a touch step. Third, there are other Medias Lunas, numbers 12 and 13, where Lima gives a diagram of the steps which shows the repetition starting on the same foot. Fourth, and finally, we found that with other Medias Lunas where you can add or subtract steps, always repeating on the opposite side can lead to some pretty awkward movements. Therefore, we decided to stick to the simplest interpretation in all cases. Next, we will show 2 Medias Lunas, which in their basic form consists of 2 walking steps and a crossing step, repeated. In number 3, the Jujeña, we walk forward 2 steps and then cross through, volcar al medio. Alternatively, we can cross outside, volcar afuera. Another option is to cross first, then take the walking steps. This Media Luna takes 3 bars of music, but you can add or subtract a walking step so that it occupies 4 or only 2 bars of music. Doing so, however, causes it to repeat on the same foot. Media Luna number 7, the Santa Fecina, also consists of 2 walking steps and a crossing step, but in this one of the dancers crosses in front, volcar adelante, while the other dancer crosses behind, volcar atrás. As in number 3, you can also cross first and then take the walking steps. And you can add or subtract a walking step. Another variation is to take 2 crossing steps and then a walking step. So next we will demonstrate variations of Medias Lunas 3 and 7. number 4, the Riojana, is known as the double 4 because in this media luna, each dancer traces the numeral 4 on the floor in each half of the figure. For example, I'll show you the man's part first. I start with a diagonal step, and then a horizontal step, and a vertical step, making the first number 4. And then the second 4 is upside down to that, a diagonal, horizontal, and vertical line. When we do it together, we're each tracing the number 4 at the same time. This is the same figure that we encountered as cantata number 4 in chapter 11. Now Lima explains how to do the lateral version. Surprisingly, this is different from the way he says to do the lateral version of a cantata. Perhaps either figure could be done either way. Media luna number 6, in Riojana, consists of 2 crossing steps and a step in place with the legs crossed. Lima says with each of these figures, you can start with an additional crossing step. We grouped the next 2 medias lunas together because in each of them the dancers traced a closed loop on the dance floor. In number 10, Porteña, the path is a hexagon formed by 2 crossing steps and a side step repeated. In number 13, Correntina, the path is a circle formed by 4 walking steps arcing forward and 4 backward. This figure is unusual in that Lima provides a diagram that shows the second half starts with the same foot as the first half. In our last dance sequence, we will show each of these medias lunas forward, backward, and promenade position and laterally. We also show 3 and 2 bar versions of number 13. This concludes our demonstration of the 8 medias lunas consisting of slow steps only. In our next video, we will show the medias lunas containing quick steps.